If you find any of the bills that you see in this video, please do not spend it because you could be missing out on a ton of money. Let's take this bill for example that sold for $2,400. Did you know that the US used special test paper during a specific period of time? Not many people know that, but the only way to really tell is by knowing which date and which serial number range that test paper is in. So essentially, 1977 is the date you want to be looking out for, and the serial number range is E76000001H through E80640000H. Essentially, the United States wanted to test different paper types to see how well the paper would handle in circulation. You have to understand that the US does not want paper being easily destroyed. They want it to last as long as possible so that they do not need to replace it. The longer paper money stands in circulation, the better it is for the government. That is why they were testing different types of paper. The reality is, collectors love these sort of things when it comes to rarities. And what's really cool about this specific type of banknote is that most people don't even know they exist. But now you do. Did you already know about Natick test paper notes? If you did, let me know down below, and if you didn't, share it with a friend or someone you care about because they probably don't know either. This $1 bill sold for $21,600, and here's why. So the back of the bill is pretty normal looking. You see the backplate number, which is essentially an internal number used by the BEP to see where this specific bill was placed on the printing plate. You don't really need to worry too much about that, but what you should focus on is the front of the bill has multiple impressions happening, which is a highly sought after error that occurs during the printing process. You have to be very careful because we've seen multiple examples of this note that have been altered through someone's printer at home to make it appear to be this error. That's why getting your bill graded by a third-party company like PMG just completely makes sense. If you have a multiple impressions error like this one, you're in for a real treat because whoever found this bill was able to sell it for $21,600. Alright, this is our favorite type of $1 bill here, so this is the one you guys have been waiting for. There's an even more expensive one later on, but this is what we call a web note. Now, to give you a very brief history on these notes, during the late 80s, the US was producing a ton of paper money and they needed to become more efficient with their production and try to get more paper money out the door. What they did was they tried a new printing technique using a web press, which is the same method that they used for producing newspapers. Now, when they're producing these banknotes, essentially they're being used on one continuous roll of paper money instead of individual sheets like they are to this day. Doing it in individual sheets takes much longer, but the thing is, this method of doing it with the web press machine caused so many errors. This bill, again, sold for $4,200 because it's a web note, and I'm sure you're saying, let's get to the point. Alright, let's get to it. So there's 3 areas you need to look for, and remember, if you have any one of these areas I talk about, by default, you have all 3. So the first area is going to be Washington's portrait. It's going to look pretty washed out compared to a normally issued bill. The next area is going to be the front plate number. Now, the front plate number is going to have only a number versus a normally issued bill will have a letter and a number. The easiest and third and final place to look is the back plate number. Now, on a web note, the backplate number is going to be just a number and it's going to be to the right of In God We Trust. Now, on a normally issued bill, it's going to be to the bottom right of the word 1 and it's going to be a number and a letter. So again, if you have any 3, you have all of them. You do have a web note. Make sure that you do not fold it because if you fold it, you will decrease the value. This one sold for $4,200. We just want to talk about this note for 10 seconds. This is a genuine $100,000 bill. It's a specimen note. Now, not many people know that this is actually the highest denomination the US federal government ever produced. This is a real bill. The only time these $100,000 bills were used were between banks. So bank to bank transfers is where these were used. This is a specimen note, meaning that it's just an example, but it's a genuine example. That means it was produced at the BEP. If you have something like this, you've hit the mother lode because $74,750 for that one. Now back to $1 bills. This is another web note. I'm not going to go over the examples again, but essentially make sure you look out for those back plate and front plate numbers. But this one sold for $24,000 and the condition is not that good. It's a 40 ppq, meaning there are multiple folds. Now, if you can tell me down below in the comments if you see why it sold for so much money outside of the fact that it's a web note, let me know down in the comments below. And if you don't know why, I'm going to tell you right now. But if you don't know, make sure that you send it to a friend or someone you care about because they should probably know as well. So if you haven't noticed already, it's really tricky, but look closely at the suffix of the serial serial numbers. So the top right serial number, you have an L as the suffix. The bottom left serial number, you have a star. This is what we were talking about earlier when we said that the printing presses for these web notes had a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors, which is why they stopped producing these web notes. They just had so many errors occurring on these bills, which is why they just stopped producing them. But essentially, yeah, that's what you want to look for. You want to look for the difference of the suffix letter in this bill. There's an L and a star, which allowed it to sell for $24,000. We'll just spend 10 seconds here, but it's this sheet of genuine $1 bills and the $2 bill at the bottom sold for $144,000. Essentially, back in the day, during the late 1800s, they had national banknotes like this. This was an entire sheet of bills, and these were all hand cut, all hand produced. Very cool. Most people don't know these exist or that they're even real. This is our specialty. This is what we like doing. But unfortunately, most people on YouTube don't really have interest in these, but I like to drop them in every now and then. But again, if you come across anything like this, even if it's an individual note and not a whole sheet, go ahead and hold on to that. Get the opinion of multiple people before you sell it, because $144,000 for this sheet. $6,600 for this $1 bill that looks really beat up. You can even see that there's an annotation to the left there, that 50 that someone drew. Now that did decrease the value without a question. Maybe that's how much someone sold it for back in the day. Who really knows? But we really like seeing bills like this because it means that this bill was actually out in pocket change before someone found it and said, hey, this is a rare bill. We should get it graded and sell it. And then they sold it for $6,600 because it sold in auction with Heritage. The main thing about this bill is the fact that it's a serial number 1. It's a star note. People like rare serial numbers like this, so if you have one, keep it safe. Again, $6,600 for this one. Click that subscribe button. We'll see you in the next video.